Excellent. Right, if this is your first time joining me, my name's Alistair and I'm a mediumistic life coach. I'm also a tarot reader and also practice psychometry. After reviewing last week's video, I kind of felt I need to sort of slow down a little bit, chill a little bit, take more breaths. So I'm going to enjoy my coffee a little bit more, wait for some of you guys to turn up, and then we'll get on with today's topic, which I'm hoping to discuss with some of you on here, things to do with change. Some things to do with how things have changed as far as COVID is concerned, but also how to just handle change in general, really. Whether the change is something that you've instigated or it's something somebody else has instigated. Just need to lean my phone a little bit. There we go. That's a little bit better. So, like I was saying, there's various... there we go, we've got a viewer. Feel free to say hi, tap the screen or put a little comment. Talking about change, I'm going to give you some scenarios from my own life, because that's the only sort of medium I can talk from. So everything I'm going to say is predominantly just my opinion. It's not about saying it's the correct way to do things or it should be the right way for you. This is simply a case of how change has affected me in different ways throughout my life and how you have to kind of figure out different kinds of coping strategies to deal with it. So, hi everybody, I can see people starting to sort of join in and stuff. I will, because I quite like doing it, we'll pull some cards later. We'll do some sort of mediumistic life coaching style stuff with the actual cards as well. My card that I pulled just before we started was the Queen of Swords. So we'll see whether or not my prediction for events throughout this video will come true because of that card. So, hi Tara. If you do want a card pulling later, if you put a little love heart as a comment, and then when Penny comes in a bit, she'll sort of write your names down for me so we can pull some cards and sort of, it'll only be a mini reading, but it'll be something, okay? So the topic of today is about change and the different kinds of change. So who's instigated the change? Why has the change been instigated? And what's the gain from the change? And these can be the most difficult things to kind of see at the time of the event. So for instance, like I said, I was going to talk to you sort of from my perspective, a massive change that happened in my life when I was 9 years old. All of a sudden, my mum decided she wanted to go and move and live in Scotland. My mum and dad were split up, so I was moving away from my family, but I had no control over the change. And as a child, you have no real understanding of the change either, other than the effects of the change that start to appear as you get older, and you can see how the changes have affected you in different ways. So in just that instance, kind of who instigated the change? My parents. Hi Marion, thank you for joining. Why did they instigate it? Because she wanted to move. There was other family reasons, and that's where she wanted to go and start her new life, and I was part of that, so I went. And what was the gain from it? So at the time of the sort of 9, 10 years old, going into school in Scotland as an English kid was interesting to say the least at times. I got my fair share of ass kickings. Standard issue bullying, I would class it as, but nowadays it's bad news. So there was kind of lots of changes like that came in because of the decisions of somebody else. But then as you get older, you start to see, well, actually being where I was, I experienced lots of other different things that I wouldn't have experienced where I was, but I would have experienced different things. So this is where retrospectively you can kind of go round and round in circles if you try and justify decisions you've made or not made through changes and different choices. For a number of you, you'll know, for about 5 or 6 years, I owned my own life coaching company, purely specialising in adults with Asperger's. So that was working towards independent living, employment, getting their own earnings set up, or even setting up sort of trips and holidays and things like that. And what I used to say in those instances because as a lot of people will know, autism is quite a rigid way of doing things. They kind of have a plan, and a lot of them kind of quite rigid and structured to that. So to create a coping mechanism for situations like that, and if this applies to you where you're not a person that handles change very well, you have to turn the word change into the word choice. And it's not an easy transition, because the moment you're given the change, you might not be the one that's instigating it. So you kind of feel like you have no choice. And in figuring that out, you do now, because you have the choice to do that needs to be done to get to where you need to get to, or the choice not to do that. So even in a kind of unempowering position where change is being thrust upon you, I don't know, your landlord gives you an eviction, not an eviction, a notice for moving out. I don't know, they're selling the property, whatever the circumstance is. That's a change that's now been thrust upon you, but within that change comes choice, because you now get to choose another house. Now those choices might not be easy, houses are scarce, so there's pressure within that choice, but there is still power within that choice. It's when you have no choice that you have very little power. But even when you get to the point where if you don't feel choices are available to you, it's sitting back and then sitting and figuring out what options might be available to you. And kind of exploring that. People tend to refer to it as overthinking. If it's overthinking, I've been doing that my entire life, because I've had a Doctor Strange level of looking at things where I kind of have worked out multiple scenarios in my life to try and figure out which route to take. Everybody does that. If you spend too long dwelling on it, I suppose, yeah, you class that as overthinking it. But what do you guys think? What changes have you kind of made you feel like you've got power in the change? And what changes do you think you've had that have not given you any power in those scenarios? And if there's a massive change going on right now, feel free. If you want to talk to me about it, that's excellent. I can see there's a few bits. I've not got Penny sat to my right hand side, so I should be back in a bit. The other thing with choices and changes, we'll stick with choice for the moment. There's a couple of other words that I tend to think of when it comes to choice, and they're things like "and." So if you're narrowing something down, so let's go with the house move. So you've got to move out. You've now got a choice of where to go, and you've got other options within that, because you can now change your budget levels. You could pick a different area to change your expenses. You could pick a completely different area and end up with money left over. So there's so many choices that could be done, but most of them end up restricted within something. It could be something like the children's school catchment area. So that would pose a challenge within those choices. But if you can sort of look and get to a point where you go, well, we could have that and that because of the changes now happened, now you're even more empowered because you've got something and something else. It's when choices revolve around this or that, and you have to choose between two. That's where people can get a little bit muddly, worrying about making the wrong decision. Just make the decision that feels right at the time. Whether it's right or wrong, you won't know that until later on. But I'm going to have a swig of my coffee because I keep rambling. I hope you guys enjoy the rambling. I hope it makes sense. If you do have questions or you're not sure about something, just pop a little comment in. That's perfectly fine. And also, if it's your first time on the page, a little like and a follow on the page would be absolutely perfect. Thank you very much. I'm just going to enjoy my coffee for a second. Okay. The next thing I wanted to say about change. I touched on this on Sunday in our Wickham Warriors Sunday share with Penny, where a number of things have now changed because of COVID. And looking at this from the perspective of sociology and psychology and the way that humans communicate, we've now got masks going to be over our faces, as we're all fully aware, and this could go on for quite a while. We're going to have to develop other ways of telling people we're okay with situations. If we're being let through a door, we can't just kind of do a little cheeky smile to say thank you anymore. It's got to be a little bit more communication to get that sense of communication with everybody else. The other aspects I think I've noticed is a real sense of, not selfishness is probably the wrong word, but we all want to protect our own at the moment. So the thought of kind of going out and mixing, there's a level of distrust because I don't know what exposure people have possibly had. I don't know how clean they've potentially been. And that side of things is quite daunting. So in this situation, it's technically a positive change because the world can start going back to normal. But it's a new normal. And this new normal is going to take work. It's going to take effort from everybody. And all the people that have sat there through COVID thinking that it's great to be green because they want to kind of fight that sort of things. As the world goes back to normal, I hope those ideals don't disappear in people. That closeness to nature that a lot of people have spoken about, they've noticed the trees, the birds, different things changed when we all stopped making so much bloody noise all the time. And that was technically a positive change for nature, but not such a positive change for the economy. And there, where changes affect different people in different scenarios. So I've said it a few times. Yes, we're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. Right. Challenging change. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I'm kind of just going to sort of keep waffling and see if you guys engage. Oh, we've got a heart from Tara. I'll do that card now, Tara, actually, if you're still there. I presume you're still there. I'll have a little... We'll divulge for a second. Divulge? I don't know where that word came from. I hope Tara's still there. Tara. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, the card you've got, Tara, like I say, I hope you're still there, is the Princess of Cups, which is an up-and-coming rising card, potentially financially. But in this instance, my draw is actually to the gemstones within the dress. So I don't know if it's potentially, if you can see that without me completely, no. Yeah, sorry, it's the Princess of Cups. So it's a rising card with a creative link. The gemstones could potentially mean something from either a creative aspect or a gemstone coming to you. The other aspects in it is there's a fish and a bird within the picture. So it tells me it's linked to your family. It's kind of, it's food, it's that side of things. It's, sorry to be so grim with the pictures, but yeah, they in my head with the way it's represented, it represents sort of good eating. So I'd say it's a positive card or an indication of better, more, well, a surprise potentially. I don't want to ruin the surprise. I hope that makes sense, Tara. I don't know what the significance of the gemstones is or the crystal side of things, but it's a rising, upcoming. So whatever you're planning to do, it's the right thing to do because it flourishes and it's the idea is being fed. So that's a good positive card. Right, we've got a comment. Penny's back now. We've got a comment from Marion. I find this back to normal quite scary. Today I made myself go into a small supermarket for the first time, long time since. I can't read the rest of it. It shortened it.
Yeah, hang on, because it's took it away completely. One moment.
But I've actually done exactly the same thing. In the couple of years that I've been isolating And I've isolated because I retained one customer during COVID that I needed to support. So I isolated, and Penny did 99.9% of the shopping. So I had to do the same thing. I had to make myself go to Tesco's just to get a few bits. And the shop's massive. Never dawned on me until sort of that day walking in there. It's just Kettering, Tesco's. But it felt enormous. The biggest shop I'd been in through COVID was a Premier, or a co-op, little co-op shop. So to go into a big Tesco's, it did feel enormous. There was loads of people, all, as far as I was concerned in my head, potentially infected. So there's all kinds of levels of anxieties that go through to do with this. And how does somebody else assure me that they're maintaining their COVID compliance to make me feel at ease? They can't. I kind of have to just focus on myself. As long as I'm doing my hand washing, I'm wearing my mask and taking all the precautions I can, then that's as good as it gets. That's the power of my choice. It's my choice to go in the shop or not. I'm sorry, just trying to fling it back to being about choice.
Tara said thanks. Marion said, I found myself panicking and leaving without half the things I needed. Any suggestions the best way to deal with this?
Yeah, you can kind of, a couple of options. One is do what I did. I only went there for snacks. So I went there just to get goodies, and it was Haribo's, biscuits, some posh coffees, and that was my goal. It was my payout for doing it. Coffees were also part of the payout because I knew they were the other end of, well, they were the last time I went in, they were the other end of the shop. So I created a kind of pathway in my head that I had to comply with to get my goodies. But I get that. The other option is to not go in and buy anything at all. Just go in the entrance, walk right the perimeter of the shop or follow their lines, but don't stop. Don't kind of boulder through everybody. Still have it as a meander, but you're under no pressure to buy anything while you're in there.
Exposure.
And it's exposure. And it's setting those achievable sort of goals. At the minute, what I'm trying to do with everybody else is be uber patient, because I understand that everybody must be having the same anxieties that I'm having, but I can kind of hide it slightly better sometimes than they can. So although I'm snippy because I'm driving and people are less likely to say thank you when you stop to let them pass anymore. We've lost this whole community of integration of people to sort of just my stuff, get out, get in, decontaminate, get home, done. And I get that. I understand everybody feels the same way. So we need to have that air of understanding and sympathy to sort of, we both want to just make this process as simple as possible. So I'm not going to confront people that are not wearing a mask. That's their business. I just stay away from them. As long as I'm more than 2 meters away, there's somebody else's problem. And it's picking your battles. And that kind of purposely done that because it leads me on to, Marion put, that's a good idea, thanks. Maybe just buy one thing. Yeah, you kind of just have to set the goal and don't pick, or if you vary your challenge, obviously picking the different times of day will change how many people are potentially in there. So Penny at one point was doing our shopping at like 9, 10 o'clock at night because we knew it'd be quieter.
And don't beat yourself for panicking. Know that the potential to panic is there.
Yeah, panicking's a different thing. That's the loss of control. But even in that sense of the panic and you feel like you've lost control, you strictly speaking haven't, because you've not collapsed, you've not stopped breathing. You can now pick whatever direction you want to leave in, and it's going from that panic, from no idea what to do, to just make a decision. And my normal default is the quickest, shortest way to either my car or the house. That's it, because they're the two bases that you need. And it's just pick the shortest route to that. Blink everybody else without being rude and just aim for the goal. But you could also go to any of the shops. I mean, I need to get some clothes. It's getting dire. For like 2 pairs of joggers. So we need to sort of, at some point I'm going to have to go to a shop. So I've got to kind of overcome those things. But again, it's the treats, it's kind of the payout for it. But I'm not looking forward to going. I can't even at this stage imagine what it would be like to just go and walk around Rusden Lakes or a shopping centre. I don't know. But I also, I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling with the desire to even do that. So many times I think I walked around shops, bought stuff I didn't need, drank coffee in places I just ended up in because I was at the shops buying stuff I didn't. I've had 2 years to sort of figure out, I just buy loads of stuff I don't really need. And that's also changed my motivation for going out, because I kind of want them to be not essential travel. I'm not meant to be quite as militant as that, but I just think whatever journey I take now needs to be a bit more meaningful than it used to be.
Make every journey purposeful.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, things have changed where I can actually be at home and relax. That makes a change as well. So, right, coming back to these, sort of the logic. With change comes challenges. So we've started to analyse change. We know where it's coming from, who has done it, and potentially how we can mould it to suit us a little bit better, hopefully. The challenge is pretty much the same thing. Where's your challenge is sort of who is the challenge coming from, or do you need to challenge? I don't know, it might be something to do with a pay rise or better working conditions, or you want to say something in your relationship, I don't know, anything at all. So then there's the why, and the why, for me, is the most important one. And that tends to precede most things. Why am I having a conversation with somebody? Why am I going to argue with them? What's the payout? What am I hoping to achieve from it? So why do we engage as heavily as we do? And for this week, I've been watching, I won't plug it, but it's an animal program on one of the subscription networks. I'm just going to say it's on Disney. And it's when animals turn on each other. And again, I watched this from a sociology point of view, as human behaviour, kind of, and I'm not an expert on it, but I'd like to think I understand enough. But it wasn't your normal David Attenborough thing where they'd show you the fun aspects of stuff. It was when animals of the same breed fight each other for whatever reason it is. So stags having a go at each other, buffalo having this, scorpions fighting, snakes fighting each other. For the only 3 reasons I could find that these animals fought was territory, food, and females. The 3 things, that was it. That was the only 3 things they fought over. They didn't fight over anything else. And what I tried to do is kind of simplify that and analyse that and kind of merge it with human behaviour. And my logic with this was, if 2 blokes decide they're going to have a fight because they both want the same girlfriend, in our society that's not allowed because we're higher functioning, so we don't fight like that for what we want. But that then makes our intentions more underhand. And it also puts very little onus on the other person, who's apparently got to make a choice of these 2 people. So I get the dynamics between animals and humans is massively different, but simplify it with me for just a moment when we talk about food, water and shelter. The only 3 things we need in life. And the animals were fighting for food, shelter, and the option to breed or procreate. And that was their only driving force. Humans, we like to find reasons to argue and debate everything, with no real massive gain at the end of it. And I think that's what makes us struggle the most with handling change, is because we're constantly thinking that other people are going to judge every single decision we make from the point that change has been implemented, whether it's by us or somebody else. Now we're being judged. We're being judged by our friends, by our family, on how we handle the situation, as opposed to being able to go, this is the situation, what friggin' do you think I should do, as a unit sort of thing. And that's sometimes not easy for people to do. is to let somebody else in or talk to somebody else about the change. Right, so we spoke earlier about a change that was sort of beyond my control. 10 years old, we're going to Scotland. Let's skip it forward where I make changes and decisions where I decide I'm going to sort of start making better choices and more long distance options, kind of thinking more for the future as opposed to just tomorrow. And that would be, I briefly touched on it, I spent a bit of time on the street, and it was kind of by choice to an extent. I needed to just kind of get to a low point that I could class as a baseline, and then I got there and didn't like it very much. But also during that time met some absolutely awesome people who I've never seen since, never heard from since, but some of them changed my mindset massively in just random things that they said or the way they helped me in a particular way. But at the point when I decided, right, I'm going to make a change now, I could have made it at any point throughout the time that I was there, but I didn't. I waited until I'd kind of got to the point where I had to make the choice. I'd had enough at this point. So you start to make changes. By this time, I'm now 19. So I've got a lot more choice of what I can do. I've already moved out of home 2 or 3 times by this point and been nicknamed the Boomerang because I just didn't like living by anybody else's rules. My roof, my rules. Fair enough, I'll go and live in a shed then. My roof, my rules. That's my kind of logic, that's all it was. I only ever wanted to be in control of my own domain. Because I'd had no control for the previous 10 years. See how that follows? So I decide that I need to get to my dad's. So my dad's in England, so it's a case of moving from there to there. How do we do that? I've barely got enough money to get coffee. I now need to get home or get back to my mum's, get sorted out, make some money to buy the bus ticket back. And I planned all of this while I was sat there in a, I can't remember what the shop was now. I can't remember now. And just sort of planned the whole thing out as that, right, I need about 40 quid for a bus fare to get to my dad's because I'm only going one way, so it's fine. I'll go on the bus, it's the cheapest option other than walking, which would have taken considerably longer. But I did contemplate that. I actually contemplated just walking the coast and then coming inland once I'd kind of got roughly to where I needed to be. But I'd had enough being on the street, so I didn't. I went back, got back to my mum's, sold a whole load of VHS videos, got about £38, I think it was, for my bus fare, got the ticket, and that was it. Made the change, moved in with my dad's. My dad loves the story. He gave me the ultimatum of I'd got 2 weeks to get a job or else I was going to work on the bins with his mate. I got a job, needless to say, I got a job and I was fine. And then I didn't actually stay at my dad's very long. I think I was there in about 6 months and then moved out and rented my own place. But it was creating those decisions to make changes that obviously I'd instigated at that point. But at the same time, I'd made the choice to change, to be where I was, to then work all the way through that, to then come back out the other side and make changes which you'd regard as, you could kind of class the first ones as not very good choices and the last ones as positive choices. But they were all positive choices because without that, I wouldn't think like this and I wouldn't have got to there. So there's all this kind of plays through, and this is where the mediumistic part comes in, because you have to appreciate your spiritual journey within this, the stuff you've kind of had to learn. And what do we do with that knowledge? We pass it on, we help somebody else with it. Like I've said before, I don't care really how much money's in my bank. What I care about is people having a story to tell after I'm gone, saying, oh, I remember when he helped me with this, or I remember when he told me about this stupid story. That's what I'm after. That's what I think, well, personally as a dad, that's what I want. I want my kids to tell all kinds of stupid stories. And anybody that knew me to sort of say, in some way, how I affected their life positively. Now, I know that's not going to work for everybody, because I can't affect everybody positively. And then we lead on to what is classed as wake change. It's the wake behind the change. And I was talking to a friend kind of about this in the week. And it normally happens around things like moving, if you move out of an area or a school catchment, or if a relationship changes. Your wake from the change changes the people that still circulate around you. So if they're strongly linked to your partner, they're kind of going to drift one way. If they're more linked to you, they're going to drift with you. And this divide creates worry in people that not only have they lost a person, but they've also lost a group of people. And I get that, and in effect, you're right. But in that change and them shedding off one way, you'll gain more coming in the other way. And the kind of my logic with this is stop looking backwards. You ain't going that way. Whenever something changes, there's always going to be the pebble in the pond effect of ripples that go out, and they affect loads of, there is, I try to think how many people there is that would probably come to me and say, yeah, you made wrong choices. Yeah, I did at times. I defy anybody to sit there and say that they've made all the right choices all the way through their life. They'd be talking complete BS. Of course not. You make choices that as you get older and you move through life, you think, well, I would have handled that differently. But I couldn't have done because the circumstances were different. So you can't kind of keep trying to rewrite your own history with changes that you could have made different. It's about accepting it to a certain extent. Where you are now is where you're supposed to be at this moment in time. So according to this, I've got 4 people that are watching at this moment, and we've all lined up on time in the universe to be at the same point at the same time. You made your own choices to get there, and I made my own choices to get here. And that could be different next week, or the week after. And that's the, like I say, the pebble in the pond. There is always going to be a ripple effect with change. And that can be where a lot of the challenges come in, I think. Again, I'm going to have a coffee. I feel like it's only like 30 minutes. I feel like I've spoken a lot. What do you guys think? Give me a bit of feedback. I'm going to drink some of my coffee. I don't aim to go to 9 o'clock. It was just kind of see how we go, see if there's people there. But what do you think about what I've said? Does it make sense? If there's anything you want me to elaborate on, by all means, ask away. Now's your time to do it, because it's free, because I'm live. Did that sound too dramatic?
A little bit.
I said this week I wanted to be a little bit more me. So a little bit more chilled out, a little bit more relaxed. Say what I like. What?
Sorry.
I got my trusty crystal with me. It's one of my favourite ones. If I was a woman, although I could do this anyway in this way, why would I need to be a woman? I'd turn that into a massive ring. Have a giant purple crystal ring. No. Anyway, guys, right. What do you think? If you want a little card reading, by all means, put a love heart in. Or if you've got a question similar to Marion about sort of the changes that we're going to experience now coming out of COVID. But like I said, my main one is going to be the communication side of things. We can't see people smiling. So we need to kind of smile with our eyes and smile with our eyebrows.
A genuine smile shows in the eyes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's kind of, I am looking forward to meeting people. Like I don't get the whole rush into the pub thing. I'm not fussed by that. But I am kind of excited to go and kind of sit, because I was a people watcher. I liked people watching. Again, as a sociology I like sociology, so I like to understand humans, because we're quite diverse, but we're all so similar. We're all just the same.
Tara said, I agree, our experiences and changes make us who we are.
Yep.
Marion has said, it all makes a lot of sense. Surely we learn by making the wrong decisions. Yes, we do. And Marion's put a heart.
Excellent. Right. On that, choices. I was going to say something then and I forgot.
Learning by mistakes.
Yeah, that was it. I touched on this a little bit another time, sort of this Generation X, millennials kind of logic. And one of the big differences I spotted is the participation certificate. I didn't get that when I was at school. You got first loser, second loser, third. What the hell were you doing? that was it. There was no, but that's healthy competition. That's the human equivalent of the animals fighting that I said earlier. If I'd have kind of divulge on that just briefly for a second, if you kind of look at human behaviour as to how we've battled over territories and land and everything just kind of got bigger until we've now got to a point where everybody's territories are all sorted out. We don't have wars now, hopefully, anymore over territories and land, although some places there are. But on the whole, it's sorted. Whereas animals constantly have that changing. And it's... I've forgotten my point.
Learning from mistakes.
Yeah. No. I was going somewhere else. Sorry about that. I just want to go off on a tangent. Oh, yeah. So human society has developed where we kind of stopped fighting each other, but then we developed things like boxing, martial arts. All of these things then became show things. Then we got the Olympic, or gladiators, then the Olympics. Do you see how kind of competition has grown throughout human society, throughout time? Now the competition's different because it's everybody can be whatever they want to be. Everybody's a winner. What's that song? Everyone's a winner.
Hot chocolate.
I ain't going to try and sing it. But it is. And unfortunately, that's just not life. And when I spoke earlier about bullying, I kind of personally think, to a certain degree, bullying is a generalised pecking order of life that's being established. It's not great, it's not nice, but different people have different attitudes. People will be abrasive to other people that they're abrasive to them. Not everybody is a Care Bear and not everybody gets on, and we have to understand people are different. Just because somebody doesn't like you, it's not a judgment of yourself. It's just they don't like you. We kind of take on too much from other people because of the decisions they want to make. And that was kind of my point. We've always had this air of competition in the world. And now we don't. We get participation, well done. And that doesn't set children up for failing. Because that's how you learn. I didn't learn how to jump a potato crate on a BMX bike without landing in it twice, grazing my knee, and then having to go out and buy a bike helmet. That's how you learn. You figure stuff out and go, don't do it that way the next time. The other thing with failing is it's not always your fault. You might have failed, but from external forces. And it's still the same process. You still pick up and you do it again if you want to. But at that point, if you have failed at something, you can review your choices. So we're then back to change and choice and empowering ourselves with that change and choice, that we can make those decisions. I've always said you can pretty much do anything once. Like fly once without a parachute. Right, Marion's card. Oh, I was getting a bit ranty then. Well, not ranty. I think it's a shame.
Passionate.
Yeah, I think it's a shame for the kids that they don't learn how to dust themselves off, pick themselves up, and carry on. Everything's so judged nowadays, and I kind of find that difficult to sort of watch, where that sense of feeling of failing at something isn't transferred into, oh, it was just a try. You tried, try again. That's how you do it. You practice. And sometimes you have to practice the game of life.
Just a little cliche. Failure isn't falling down. Failure's not getting up again.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Right, Marion's card. Oh, I've had an idea for next week.
Oh.
Men and managing emotions. What do we reckon to that idea?
Like that.
But then you could look at it from a woman's perspective, men managing their emotions. Right, Marion. Well, I can't remember what the card was I got last time for Marion. But right, this time you have got the love card, Marion. Mm-hmm. Generally means somebody, like a person. So yeah, I'll leave the ambiguous card with you, Marion.
New relationship.
Yeah, it fundamentally means a new relationship of depth, not just an acquaintance. This is a relationship. It's a loved relationship, so it doesn't have to be a partner. It could be a family member, but it's but yeah. So yeah, if that makes sense, that's good. That's a good positive card, Marion. Excellent.
Okay, we've got comments. Hang on.
Marion's put, I'm going to my first show this weekend. Big thing, getting nervous already. I get that. There is one saving grace, though. It's outside, so you're in a field. It's kind of open air, and there are people They're, it is a friendly environment. Well, it is for you. It wouldn't be for me. I don't know who it is, Marion. That's what I'm saying. It says it's a love, so I don't know.
Focus on the reconnection with people.
It's possibly that reconnection, like Penny's just said there. The reconnection with people is that kind of bubbling of love, and because class love as an emotion, love also has a tendency to have an anxiety aspect with it. So as we're getting sort of braver and want to go out and see family and friends, it is that kind of, oh God, I mean, I can't wait to go and see Mum and Dad. Both bloody hug. And Kevin not to break Mum, she's only little. But yeah, I get that. But like I said, I would be a bit more comfortable because it's outside. Don't know whether it changes things for like COVID compliance if somebody's stroking somebody else's dog. I don't know what the rules are for dogs because I don't do training for dogs anymore. So I don't know. But I don't think it would change anything as far as that. Face masks, I would imagine if you go to the catering tent or in the secretary's tent. But then how do you hand somebody a running card? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. So yeah, a little bit daunting. What I would say in that instance, Mary, knowing that there's an outlet like Agility Net, you might find you're definitely not the only person thinking that, going back into agility. So I mean, there's quite a lot of nice people in agility. There is a lot of nice people in agility. And I'm sure they'll look after you, Marion. They're bound to. You got Bryony and I know they probably always go to the same shows. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't go to the indoors. Yeah, I think it probably is the general love, unless you've not told us something and you've got a love interest. I'm not tagging Don in it because he'd be too happy. Private joke. Right, if there's anybody else there, if you want a card pulling, then excellent. Pop a little love heart in. I'm going to wrap it up unless anybody's got any more questions to do with the topic. Or like I said, next week I'm going to discuss managing emotions as a man and how that's, again, this bridges this Generation X and millennials and how the emotions are different, I think, between the generations. And the emotional journey I've been on with my spirituality to an extent as well, because I always found that quite to be feminine. So I always thought emotions were more of a feminine thing than a masculine thing.
Save it for next week.
But yeah, we'll save that for next week. Yeah, I'm married, saying lots of friends there. New love interest, I wish. There's apps for that, Marion. Right. So yeah, if anybody else would like a reading, I think my coffee's done now. We should just call this coffee and coaching.
Change it.
I decided not to sing the Longhead Life Coach song again. That didn't go down well. I just want to make sure I've got my notes all done. Yeah. When it comes to choice and change, I'll leave you with this one final thought. Divide everything that you feel you need into need or want. And then when you've got that kind of choice to have something, categorise it as a need or a want. I have the choice to have it, but it's a need, it's not really a want. And it just adds that little sort of breaker point moment in there where you know whatever you're getting is what you want to get. if you get my logic. But anyway, I don't want to digress again. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed being here. I just rambled for 45 minutes solid, I think. Just all about change. I hope it made sense. I hope you guys enjoyed it.